Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gland Bodybuilding Mountain. Today I just finished training some legs, and I was experimenting with some different hamstring movements and some different quad movements, and then I went on to some squats first. And now I'm doing some shoulders. I already did some rotator cuff stuff, and now I'm doing some rear delts, and then I will go into shoulder presses. And this spurred a discussion inside myself that I thought maybe you guys would enjoy. But a lot of people talk about certain techniques, or it's pretty common for most bodybuilders to talk about a technique like pre-exhaustion and speak about it from a context of building muscle mass. But there's another reason why you may want to pre-exhaust muscle groups. It's not the reason why I'm doing it, but it might be the reason why you should. And that is, if you find that using heavy weights during certain movements is hard on your joints, or it's causing some sort of issue. Maybe you have some sort of problem with your shoulders or your knees or your back or whatever it might be. Sometimes pre-exhausting with isolation movements can allow you to really take that muscle into a deep level of failure, but you're not putting it into a risk category of high weight, right? And sometimes, you know, through situations that are beyond your control, you may have an injury or some sort of thing going on with your body that does not allow you to lift heavy weight with certain compound lifts. And that is really a good time for you to really concentrate on pre-exhausting with the isolations first and then moving into the lift. And of course, you'd pre-exhaust the muscles that you are interested in hitting. So of course, the standard sort of pre-exhaustion for chest would be flies, and then you move into the bench press, or maybe you're doing cable crossovers or something like that, and then you go into bench presses. Now, because the chest is pre-exhaust, now you won't have to use as much weight. So if you're having some sort of shoulder issue, this way you can still get a great workout in without pushing that joint into a dangerous category. This is also a lot of the reason why a lot of the pro bodybuilders would do leg extensions and leg curls and a lot of those isolation movements before they'd go into squat. And sometimes they'd even do their leg presses and then their hack squats and all of these different types of movements first before they go into the squat. And the reason why is because they wanted to make sure that they weren't lifting huge amounts of weight on the lower back, because that was their weak link, right? And they wanted to make sure that the legs would hit failure long before the lower back did, so they wouldn't have to take the lower back into failure. And I've always talked about this, but you don't want to take the lower back into failure when it comes down to movements like squats and deadlifts, bent over rows. And the reason why is because the muscles that you'll be taking to failure are also responsible for protecting the back from injury. So by exhausting the quadriceps and the hamstrings first, once you get under the squat rack, not only do you not have to use as much weight, but you will also be making sure that the lower back can have plenty of reserves to keep up, to maintain proper form as you push those legs close to failure, right? So it's a much more safe approach in that circumstance. Now, you might not have any of these issues or whatever, but just to change things up, say you notice that your lower back is hitting failure first during your squats, maybe you'd like to make sure that your legs are hitting failure. And a great way to do this is to start with your isolations first and then go into your squat workout. So sometimes I do this just for fun because, you know, when you're training at home, you don't have a ton of variety of stuff. And it's a great sort of idea to just try things in a different order. So sometimes I just do that just for the sake of interest, you know, just to keep myself interested in this whole thing. So another neat thing that happens when you exhaust a muscle group from strange and different angles first before doing the compound is sometimes you develop mind-muscle connection in an area that you never knew you had, you know. So that's a great idea as well. So this is, you know, some of the reasons why you might want to do pre-exhaustion, and it's not necessarily just about muscle mass. Sometimes it's out of necessity. Mountain. So let's do a set of rear delts here, or a couple sets, and then we'll talk about something else. Now, another thing you can do is something that I'm doing today is I'm pre-exhausting the shoulders, but I'm also pre-exhausting the triceps. Now, why would you do that, right? Why would you do that? Well, the reason why I'm doing it is because I just enjoy the feeling, first of all. I'm kind of lazy. I like to set something up and then work through the equipment as I set it up. But I also notice that when I do shoulder presses, if I pre-exhaust the shoulders and the triceps, then the neck doesn't play quite as much of a role in the exhaustion of the set as well. Because with standing shoulder presses especially, not necessarily with seated, but with standing, I find when I'm shoulder pressing that I start to bring in a lot of the neck. And this way, I notice that my triceps and my shoulders hit failure long before my neck feels any sort of tired feeling or anything like that, right? So, of course, this is exacerbated by my own situation. We've talked about this in the past, my labral tear on the shoulder and so forth. But the fact is that you can develop strategies to pre-exhaust multiple body parts, kind of like the pro bodybuilders do with legs. They'll pre-exhaust the hamstrings and the quads, and then they'll go into a compound lift and make sure that those areas are hitting failure. So you don't have to necessarily just pre-exhaust one area. You can do multiple areas that are involved in the lift, especially those areas that you want to make sure that get stimulated. And then from there, you notice that those muscles start to experience more growth and more of a bodybuilderish pump and so forth, right? Like say for instance, say you're doing bench presses and you want to make sure that maybe your rotator cuff is not exploited quite as much, right? Maybe you're having rotator cuff problems or shoulder problems. What you might want to do is pre-exhaust the chest and pre-exhaust the shoulders, and then the set just will not last as long. Those two areas will hit failure long before the delt runs out of steam, and therefore you might get the stimulation that you're looking for, right? And again, this could be also applied to injury. Say you have a bit of a delt problem or delt injury, and you want to make sure that your delts aren't pushed so hard in the workout. You might exhaust multiple body parts, such as the triceps and the chest first, and then from there, the delts don't necessarily have to get worked as hard during that compound lift. So I know this is a different strategy, but I don't think a lot of people think about this, and I don't think I thought about it that much either back in the day. So I thought it was a worthwhile subject to talk about. So yeah, after doing some triceps here, then I'm going to go over to shoulder presses and just do a few sets, and then I'm going to be done my workout because it's a long workout today. I did legs earlier before I started filming, and so yeah, most of the stuff that I did today did not take place on camera. So So because I did the bent over lateral raises first and the rotator cuff exercises, and then I did some triceps, I noticed that I'm having a different experience of the shoulder press. Like, it feels really good. I'm feeling really pumpy and lumpy from doing it. So sometimes just changing the order up or pre-exhausting the muscles in a more strategic way can allow you to enjoy the compound movement even more, right? It breaks up that stagnation and at the same time helps stimulate that mind-muscle connection in a deeper way. So if you're having trouble stimulating mind-muscle connection, yeah, chances are that if you start off with some isolation exercises first and then you move into that compound, it'll help you become more hyper-focused or hyper-focused on what it is to contract those particular muscles as you're doing the compound. So in the end, do I think it's going to make or break you in your natural bodybuilding journey? No, I'm just saying that this is a way of making it more interesting and helping you constantly connect to the experience in a deeper level. And that's the biggest blessing I find with natural bodybuilding, is that it helps you connect to the experiences of the body, pain, well-being, or otherwise, in a deeper way, rather than disassociating from the body, right? You see a lot of people, they're walking around in the never-ending cycle of thought, and they think, therefore they exist, all this kind of stuff, right? They got all this stuff going on in here, but they're really disassociated from the experiences of physicality. And this is the blessing of playing around with these different ways to train and enjoying the experiences. And yeah, that's what I like. You know, sometimes doing the same thing over and over again all the time, regardless of whether it's getting you results or not, is sometimes, let's just say, not as interesting as exploring different possibilities. Because again, once you start playing around with these different angles and these different ways of attacking the muscle, you sometimes uncover new and exciting ways of getting results. And sometimes you end up blasting through a lot of plateaus that you may have been holding on to for a long period of time from stagnating. So yeah, once certain pathways are explored, say you've done the bench press to death, sometimes by changing it up and doing some flies ahead of time, or maybe just a little bit of a different angle, or maybe starting with a machine rather than a compound, sometimes these new ways of training can bring you greater results, or at least some results that are synergistic with the results that you got from the past foundational exercises. So yeah, it's really important to keep playing around and keep experimenting. And yeah, that's what I recommend. So let's do one more set here. Nice. Well, anyway, guys, I hope this helps you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching this workout vlog. Mountain. And if you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com. And thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now.